Hey guys, rudeoff here, and I'm coming at you with my very first episode in my Sony Vegas Pro 12 tutorials. Now, if you have an older version than 12, you should be completely fine because all these lessons usually apply because Vegas doesn't generally change the newer that the program gets. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File and then New Project. Now, once you open New Project, you're going to get this window right here, which I already had open. And you're going to want to make a custom template if you don't already have one. So just drop down, scroll down to where the HDs are, and click on one of these HDs right here. Now, you're going to set it to 1280 by 720p in order to get a 720p video, which is what I generally render in. And then you're going to want to manually type in 59.94. And once you type that in, it'll actually give you a 59.94 frame rate, which is what you want. Now, the reason that you're going to want this is because it's going to come out much higher quality than 30 frames per second. Now, even though YouTube is going to render your video in 30 FPS, it's always better to end it in 59.94 because it's going to look a lot nicer. Now, I'm not exactly sure why this ends up happening, but it does. So I recommend that you change it to 59.94 before you even start. And your audio should already be set. So now that you made your own preset, just name it, save it, and then you're good to go. Now, the very first thing you're going to want to do when you get a Vegas project open is you're going to want to import some of your videos. So, there are two ways that you could do it. You can go to File, Import, and then you can import your media through here as soon as this opens up, which is taking a while. Alright. And then actually click on the video and then just import it by opening it right here, which is going to put it in your project media, which you can simply click on if you didn't already have it open. That is one of the ways that you can import media. Or you could do it the second way. You can open up the window and you could just drag the clip into Vegas. Now, one thing that you're going to notice is when you import media into Vegas, you're going to get these .safp files or SFK. When you get these files, this is Vegas making files so that they can keep your files usable on Sony Vegas. So it's always important to keep them and then delete them when you're done, or move them or hide them, because they will be necessary for the rest of your editing. So I do not recommend getting rid of these files. And it's going to make one every single time you import it into Vegas. So do not delete these files till you are done, otherwise you might lose your work. Now, this window will pop up. It doesn't really matter, but once you have your very first video in Vegas, you're obviously going to want to put it down here on your timeline, because your timeline is your actual video that you're making. So when you put your video down on your timeline, this window is always going to come up unless you check it. And it's asking if you want to change your project settings. Now, let's say that this video right here is 360p and it's not HD. If I hit yes, it's going to make everything in my timeline 360p, and it's going to render in 360p, and it's not going to look good. So you always hit no when you set that template at the beginning. You always hit no so you can use your template that you made. Now you have your video down on your timeline. Two things that you need to know. This right here, this is your volume slider, pretty simple. And this is your opacity, which I wouldn't necessarily worry about. Now let's say that you wanted to completely get rid of the audio on one of your files. So you just right click it, delete it. Oh wait, it took away your video too. So whenever you import something, it imports it as one whole. So you have to split these into two separate pieces if you want to take out one and not the other. So simply click on one of them, hit U on your keyboard, and then you can right click and you can delete it and keep the other one in your timeline. So now that you have a file without audio, you can go ahead and import your next file because you've already set that one up the way that you wanted to. So let's import my build down here. And if you notice, whenever you record with an HD PVR, you're going to get these black lines around the edges of the clip. Now, these are obviously not desired, and you do not want these black lines. So you're going to go to your pan crop, which is always on the far right of the clip that you see, unless you're zoomed out really far. Like if I was zoomed out, you wouldn't always see these two right here. So you just zoom in, find the end of your clip, and just click on it. Now you open up your pan crop, and you just drag it in just a little bit, and then that will get rid of your black bars. Now let's say I wanted to show this much of my screen for some reason, so I went ahead and closed it. And now you can see that's what I just changed it to. At this certain time, my screen is this big. But if I go back, it's this big, and it's progressively getting smaller. So let's take off my audio and show you an example. It's zooming in as time goes by because that's the way I set it to do. Now, this is extremely easy to fix. What happens is that this right here, this is a keyframe. you set it to be this size at that keyframe. So everything after this keyframe is going to be this size. Now if you only have one keyframe, so if I delete this very first one, and you only have one keyframe, it's going to apply to the entire video. So that's obviously what you're going to want. But right now we only want to lose our black bars, so we're going to bring it out to the sides and only lose our black bars. And as long as we only have one keyframe, that's all that is going to be applying to the entire video. Now, let's say that you want to put this on more than one video. You have many videos that have the black bars and you always want to get rid of them. So you could just simply type in a name. I'm going to name it Toot because, yeah, I'm going to save it. And now I have my Toot preset. So whenever I get a different video and I want to crop it again, I could just drop down and I can find my Toot. I already have some set on here, but I could just click on my Toot and then I'm good. And I could do that over and over again on my different files, and that Toot will always be there. So now that I set my file and I got rid of my black bars, I want to trim it because I only want it to start around my trick shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my trick shot, which should be right after I climb up this ledge right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the very beginning of the video and we're just going to trim it, and we're going to snap it onto where we put that cursor. And it's going to trim it to where that cursor was at. So now our video seems a little bit long, and we already got our kill cam. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim it one more time at the end. We're going to trim it right before this scoreboard comes up. So we're going to go back by hitting this button to go back frames, and we're going to take out the whole scoreboard that's up here. Let's see. Let's keep going back. Actually, there's a lot. Let's go forward instead of back. And then let's get the very last frames. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. We're going to set this as the last one, and we're going to trim it to right here. So we just grab the end of it like we did earlier, and we just snap it onto where our cursor is, and now we just trimmed it to only show the beginning and the end. And that's all that we want. So we bring it over here, we snap it onto our intro so that it starts right after our intro in our timeline. So we're going to zoom in a little bit so we can see exactly what we're doing by hitting this little zoom in button right here. And we don't want to see this scoreboard right here. Let's say that you don't want to see the scoreboard, you only want to see the kill cam. So what we're going to do again is, instead of trimming it this time, we're going to split it into two entirely separate videos. So let's go ahead and split it right here where this fire comes out of my gun. Or actually, let's go ahead and split it right here where this train track hits the corner of my screen. Now the reason that I'm doing that is so that I can find that in the kill cam and I can match it really easily. I will explain later. So I right click and I split it, and what this does is it turns it into two completely separate videos. Now that you have two completely separate videos, the next thing you're going to want to do is you want to find this exact same spot on the kill cam, because that's the way that I'm going to be editing this kill cam. I'm going to find the exact same spot twice. So it should be right about there. Right there where that train track hits the corner again. So we're going to right click it. We're going to split it one more time. Or you could hit S. Either way, it works just fine. And now we don't want any of this part in the middle. So we could just go ahead and right click it and delete this and get rid of it completely. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the kill cam and I'm going to snap it on. And I'm going to click right here in the middle, and I'm going to find out if that flows smoothly enough for me. So let's see. Does that flow smoothly? It looks like there's a little bit of a jump between here and here. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in really far so we can be really accurate. And we're going to move this back a couple frames. And we're going to go forward 1, 2. And we're going to drag out our clip. This is the opposite of trimming it. We're making it longer so that we can edit it. No, we're going to end it right there. That's where we want to end it. We're going to snap it on again. We're going to see if that flows a little bit smoother. Yes, it does. And now that it flows perfectly smooth, what we're going to want to do is go ahead and set a marker right here when he actually hits the guy. So we're going to hit M on our keyboard, and what this does is it makes a marker that we can click on really easily and we can snap things to. So it makes a marker that goes all the way down, and we can snap files to that marker afterwards. And you can delete this marker if you ever needed to, but we don't need to. So now that we have a marker, let's say that we want some audio, because you definitely want some music and a little bit of an edit. So we're going to go back and import a song that I already picked out earlier, and we're going to put it down in our Vegas timeline. I'm going to bring it back to the beginning, and we're going to find a really loud part in the song, which should be right about there. And that is where we want to start it. So I'm going to go forward a couple frames, and I'm going to set right where it gets really loud, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to trim it to the start so it cuts out everything before that really loud part. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the really loud part of my song and snap it onto my orange marker. And then I'm going to enlarge the song back, so now that the song fills the entire video. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of fade to my song so it doesn't just blare out as soon as the video starts. So I'm going to grab the corner of it, and I'm going to snap it right here. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to change it to this curve. This curve sounds best on all the audio files. I'm not sure why, but this is the one that I like to hear the best. Now you could pick your own, but that is the way that I like to edit my audio. Now if you notice, my clip ends at 16 seconds, but my audio goes all the way down into a minute. So this is going to make my video a minute long, but that's obviously not what you want because you don't have any video for this part right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim it one more time, and we're going to bring it closer to where the video is. Now, your video will end when your audio ends, so keep that in mind. If I go all the way out here, this is when my video will end. But I don't want it to go too far after my video ends. So I'm going to go ahead and curve my audio fade again, and right click it, change it to that curve. Now you have a clip, and you have music, and it's synced to get really loud right where the guy takes his shot. Now, another thing that we're going to want to do is, let's say that we want to make our clip look a little bit fancy, and we want to make it look nice. Now, before you ever do any editing to your clip, like actually doing something besides trimming it, you're going to right click your clip, and you're going to do switches and disable resample every single time. Disable your resample on all of your clips before you go ahead and edit it. Now what this is going to do is it's going to reduce Vegas from making fake frames inside of it to make it look smoother, which, to be honest, does not make it look smoother at all. So always disable your resample. Now, the very next thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in little black bars at the top and at the bottom to make it look a little bit more like it's in a movie theater. So we're going to go to our video effects, and we're going to find what is called our cookie cutter. Now we just grab the default cookie cutter, and I'm going to put it onto my first clip. I'll move this down a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And let's go to the middle. Now this cookie cutter is set to a circle. Now that's obviously not what you want. Unless you want that, which you could, but I definitely don't. So we're going to set it to a square cookie cutter. And we do not need a feather, because the feather is going to be a fade at the very end. What we're going to want is we're going to want a very small border. Let's say like let's go 0.2. And then we're going to repeat our X. I'm going to drag this out to 4, so it's all one bar. Yeah, we're doing 7. And then we're going to change our size just a little bit, because that's extremely small. So we're just going to grab the size. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's go to right about there. That looks nice right there. And now, let's say that you want to use this cookie cutter more than once, so you can go ahead and give it a name. So you can save a preset. Let's name it Toot, and let's save it, just like that. Now you have your cookie cutter on your very first video right here. Now, let's say you want your cookie cutter on your second video too, just to make it look a little bit smoother, because your cookie cutter came off. What you do is when you're under your cookie cutter, it shows you all of your presets that you have right here. So you scroll down through your presets a little bit, and you're going to find that toot that you just made. So you can use this, and you could just drag it and drop it onto your clip, and it's going to make those black bars for you because you already made a preset, and you can just close this window. Now that you have your awesome black bars, let's say you want to make your clip look a little bit fancier. So we're going to go ahead and go to our brightness and contrast, and we will just put on a default brightness and contrast and put it on our first clip. Now that is a cookie cutter. Okay, but this is a mistake that's easily fixable. So I can either uncheck this cookie cutter and take it off, or I can simply highlight it like it is right now, and I can delete it right here in my video effects delete. And now I just took out that cookie cutter that I did not want to put in. So we're going to go back to our brightness and contrast, and we're going to put on a default brightness and contrast right here. Now it's going to bring up our window, so we can edit our brightness and our contrast. So let's make it a little bit brighter, and then let's add a little bit of contrast to right about there. So everything is nice and bright and looks very fancy. So we can go ahead and give this one a name too. Let's name it 2. Let's save it. And now we have 2. And we can easily apply it to our second video. But let's say instead of applying it to our second video, we wanted everything in this row to have toot on. So this is a very easy thing to do. You can either grab toot and you could drop it right here onto the entire row, or you could do it the much harder way, is by clicking this little video effects, and then you find your Sony, you find your brightness and contrast right here, and then you add it. Once you added that, you can close this window, and once you've added it, you find the one that you already saved in your presets. So you hit this little drop down bar, and you find your toot, and now you just applied toot to everything in this row right here. But now this clip has toot on twice, so it's extremely harsh and it's way too bright. So what we do is we open up our FX again, and we are going to take this one off by simply either unchecking it, or we could just delete it completely because we don't need it anymore. Now we have a nice brightness and contrast on our clips, and we have it looking very nice and it flows with the music. So let's say that we wanted to add a little bit of slow motion to the second part. We wanted to add a little bit of slow motion right about, let's do slow motion right when he grabs this little bolt. So we're going to wait for him to grab the bolt. There. Start it right there. What we're going to do is we're going to right click it and we're going to split it again. We're going to make this entire part right here slow motion. So this is a really simple thing to do. Now, once you've made sure that you disable your resample, which it already is, but for some reason I clicked on the wrong thing. So sit and then disable it. Once you've already made sure that this is disabled, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the end of it, like we did earlier, and we're going to hold Control and we're going to drag it out. And this is going to stretch out our video and make it a little bit longer. So now we just made this part of the video slow motion. Now we might as well add in a little bit of fade just to make sure that it doesn't cut off oddly. So let's give it a little bit of fade in our slow motion. And then let's go ahead and add a little bit of fade to the beginning part too. So let's just grab the corner again, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to make it a straight line because that's my favorite fade for videos. So now that we have already set up everything and we have it all made, we're going to go ahead and save our progress because we put a good amount of work into this and we don't want to lose our project. So we're going to File, we're going to go to Save As, and it's going to bring up this window right here, which is actually really big. You want to make sure that it's saving as a Vegas file. I don't know if you'll get any other options, but you want to make sure that it's saving in a Vegas. And I'm going to name it Toot. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now you can hit Control S as many times as you possibly want to just save it anytime during the video so you don't lose your progress. Now that you have saved it and you seem very happy with your video, we're going to go ahead and render it. We got to make sure our audio looks good. So our audio is loud enough right here. We didn't change our volume. This right here, we're going to raise our volume of our game so that our game's a little bit louder. And we have to change one thing though. Because we stretched out this very final clip, what it does is it makes your audio sound very scratchy and very robot-y for the part that you stretched out. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to split it, and we're going to either right click and delete this audio, or we could just grab this little bar and we could lower it. And if you take off the grain all the way, none of the audio will play. Or you could just make a whole nother audio layer and you could set it to no volume and put it there if you needed to. So we're going to go ahead and do that just for the heck of it. And it makes these orange lines so you can make sure that it's lined up perfectly to help you out. And we're just going to take off our audio so nothing plays on that clip. So now that we've done that, we made a change. So let's go ahead and save it one last time. And now we're ready to render our video because we finished our video and we think it's pretty nice. So we're going to go ahead and go to File, and we're going to render it as. Now, rendering settings are always really important, so you want to make sure that you have good render settings because this is what the quality of the video you're making is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and find a MP4 right here. So you just hit one of these drop downs if it isn't already open and just pick one of the MP4s. So let's do Internet HD 720p because that's the one that we want to do. We're going to go ahead and scroll down. We're going to customize this template and customize it just a little bit. It's already in our 720p HD. We do need to change our frame rate to 59.94. Almost hit a 5 there. Drop it down, and that should be good. Our baseline is good. And all of this should be set pretty correct. But just in case, I'm going to go ahead and look at one of the ones that I previously made before. So this is one of the ones that I use when I render my videos. So just go ahead and match it to these settings, which should be exactly the same to that Internet HD one. And then get your audio set, and then give it a name. Go ahead and name your template, and then save your template so that you have a template that you can use every single time. You can just pull it up. And then what I prefer to do is I prefer to drop a little star next to it so that I can find it later, and then I check mark this so it only shows the ones that I've starred. And now that I made my template and everything is seeming correct, we give it a name, we make sure it's saving to the right place, which mine is, and then we're ready to render. So we just hit our render button, and it's going to start making our video. So now you just made an edit and you're going to have your file made. So that was the basics of Sony Vegas Pro 12. And I will be taking suggestions for any more tutorials that I can possibly do for future episodes of Sony Vegas. So, if you like this video, please click the like button and please tell me what I can do afterwards. As always, thanks for coming by, click the like button, subscribe, and do whatever it is you do on Call of Duty.